at the end of the day, part of the reason we moved to Florida, and Ishan can attest to this, is if I would have been doing what I do in Cincinnati or Tampa, let's say I started in I graduated law school in 2006. So in 2006, if I would have invested the same amount of money in Tampa or in Cincinnati, I'd be worth 10 times as much money doing the exact same thing. My life wouldn't have changed, right? The work would have been the same. The output would have been the same. And I would be worth more just because the nature of real estate. Real estate's a function of two things: people, right? So population growth and income growth. That's it. And so, and that's, if I would have done the same thing in New York City, I would have been worth 100 times if I was able to figure that more. Like, there are just places that are growing. And so it's a mistake. It's a mistake that I learned. Not to say that there aren't really, really successful people in the Midwest. There are that make all kinds of gobs and gobs of money. But all things being equal, you should do business in places that are growing.
Right. Yeah. Location matters so much. But there's also the barrier to entry, right? Like, imagine starting out fresh in New York versus down here. There's a massive opportunity. I still think we have decades of growth ahead of us.
I tend to agree with you.
Yeah. And just let's talk quickly about the market too. It's softened up since, for sure, you last came on, Sean.
Yeah.
But in the last really 18 months in particular, it's been interesting. You still have this incredible amount of demand, yet other factors have diminished the demand, but it's still high, right? You still have high interest rates. You still have high insurance, a little lower than it was a few months ago. You have less buyers in the market, but there's still a ton of people moving to Florida. So on paper, it might seem like the market's softening and trending downwards, but on my side, on the residential side, you're still seeing record prices in certain areas. It's like this weird two things are happening at once. You guys were, for the past few years, very much focused on land acquisition. How has that shifted since you started Serenity down here in your land acquisition business? Like, in the beginning, it seemed like you guys were rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Has that softened? Have you seen it soften a little bit?
Go ahead.
So I think that from the perspective of land, sellers' expectations have only gotten higher.
Yeah.
Right? Because their neighbors, like, these are old farmers or folks who have generational land that has been passed down for over 100 years, right? And so their neighbors are selling, their family is selling, and every year the price per acre just gets higher and higher. And as more growth sort of enters into these markets in terms of home builders, retailers, self-storage, healthcare folks, land only continues to get more expensive.
So there's a discrepancy between the sellers and the buyers, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, the sellers might be in la la land a little bit, right?
They are, absolutely.
Because for a few years, there was this insane bull run. And now that the market has softened, they may perceive their property being worth more than it really is. And then, like, how do you fight that battle out with them?
Yeah.
Especially with a farmer that's like, dude, I've owned this for generations. I don't have to sell right now. That's probably where the tightness maybe happens.
Yeah, that, and also timing, right? Like, these are agriculturally zoned properties that need to be rezoned, and counties are like inundated with rezoning applications. I mean, there's hundreds of properties being rezoned, and they only have so much staff. And so the timelines now, like a rezoning probably 5 or 10 years ago would have taken 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. That's moved on to 10 months to 12 months now, just for a rezoning.
Well, you were on the show, 18 months ago,
Yeah.
talking about your site plan at that property you have out in Riverview.
Yeah.
And still, I mean, where are you at on that? You haven't broken ground.
Yes. So we have not broken ground yet. We did get it rezoned. Okay. Back then we were sort of new to the market, right? So we were trying to understand what the highest and best use was.
Yeah.
And I think that we finally did. And so it took us some time, but we finally got rezoned in April of this year, actually.
Congratulations.
Yeah, just to add 3 points. You mentioned, because I think it was an interesting comment, that houses are selling for a lot of money on the water. Like, there's this barbell feeling for residential real estate.
Yes.
I totally agree. So my perspective is, especially after the hurricanes, you have the you have the sense that the great real estate's going to could get even more expensive, just like it did in Fort Myers, Anna Maria,
Right.
after Hurricane Ian, because the people that can't afford it are finally getting an opportunity to access great lots on the water. Right, for them, the insurance cost just isn't a factor in where they want to live.
Yeah.
So I think great lots are going to continue to be phenomenal. What is interesting to me is, so my house, my neighbor to the right, we were very fortunate, did not flood. The neighbor to the right, my neighbor to the left, the two neighbors behind me, all flooded out. Nobody lives in any of those 4 homes. We have I bet you of my neighborhood, maybe 30% of all the houses flooded. I'm not sure, there's not enough builders in Tampa to buy every lot. So the feedback I'm getting is they're being very picky, right? If you're a builder and you have cash, you're going to go after the lots that are going to be the most valuable to you. They're going to be the best lots. So I think that's exactly what you're saying, is there's this barbell. Great properties with great houses are going to be worth more. And properties that perhaps aren't so great or well located, perhaps in the short to medium term, are going to be worth less. But again, that's the beauty of Tampa. When you have population growth,
Right.
it just raises all ships. So
Yeah, our allure and the constant demand, right? You have these like layers of demand. We're in Florida, right? You have the sunshine, the weather, the retirees. You always have that base moving here, the business and the tax advantages. There's that layer. And then locally, this place is awesome, right? A lot of people know about it, close to the airport, close to the beach, big metro, football, etc. So you kind of have these drivers that will always support us. But something that's interesting is a lot of those older homes that did flood, that were built in the 60s and 70s, you're over on like the west side. Like, I don't want to give out your address, but Beach Park, Sunset Park, right, that area. That West Shore corridor, Barrier Islands, all the older homes that are like 70s built below the floodplain, those just aren't marketable anymore. You know, I don't care how nice the kitchen is. I don't care, oh, beautiful new floors and all that. Like, buyers right now, their first question is, did this thing flood? And that's a requirement, always has been, right? But now that that's at the top of a buyer's mind, and requirement of disclosure, right, from the seller, now that that's at the top of a buyer's mind, it's not going to matter that 1970s house is really cool and it's got all these new fancy bells and whistles and it's maybe at a price on the water that's affordable versus new construction. Buyers are not going to take that risk. Mortgage lenders are not going to take that risk. Insurance companies aren't going to take that risk unless you have someone with a bunch of cash that's just like, I want to be on DI on the water. I'll take this older home. Even then, that person's taking a huge risk. These storms are going to keep coming. Like, there's going to be another event like this in the next, who knows, hopefully it's a while. But that being at the top of a buyer's mind has made those older homes totally unsellable. Hey guys, if you want to watch the full episode of this clip, click right here. Make sure to subscribe by clicking right here. Thank you for watching.